We are exactly 1 month away from the start of the NCAA tournament, but the madness not waiting till March. 3 of the top 6 teams going down last week, which means some shuffling in the AP poll. Here's a look at the newest addition. Alabama, the new #1, rising to the top spot in the poll for the first time in 20 years. Purdue drops from the top to #3. UCLA and Kansas join the top 5. Baylor jumping 5 spots to #9. Arizona and Tennessee each falling 4 spots, but stay in the top 10. Some more movers, Indiana and Miami into the top 15. Iowa State with the biggest drop, down 8 spots to 19. And TCU falling to #22 after a ranked loss. Now let's bring in Isaac Trotter to discuss the headlines here. Obviously the biggest one, Purdue upset by unranked Northwestern. The Boilermakers had previously won 11 in a row against the Wildcats, but struggled down the stretch, shooting under 29% in the second half and letting Northwestern finish the game on a 17-3 run. Isaac, what's to say about Purdue?
Yeah, I think Purdue has to play a specific way if they want to win. They turned the basketball over way too many times against Northwestern, and Purdue now leads the Big Ten in turnover percentage during conference play. That's like their one main flaw offensively. If the Boilermakers, who are obviously been one of the best teams in college basketball this season, if they want to get back to that peak, that #1 team in the country, those turnovers just have to quit. Like when they just settle down, they run offense, they get good shots. That's fine because they have great offensive rebounders that can go get them multiple opportunities. But when they're turning the basketball over, that ends up being a kind of like a killer for this program, especially. And then their offense just gets really, really one-sided. It's like Zach Edey or nothing. So I think what Northwestern exposed a little bit is that you can turn this Purdue team over a little bit. This is a Northwestern team. I think they clinched their NCAA tournament bid basically with a win like this. They just need to tread water for the rest of the way, and they're in. But for now, you're talking about a Purdue team that has to get back on track. We've seen them all season long. They don't take breaks. Like Purdue has been very consistent this year. Every single game is super important to them. I bet they bounce back with a big thing. And again, big win for Northwestern. This is a Chris Collins coach team that's had a lot of turbulence through the last few years. His hot seat rumors were very, very hot at the beginning of the season. And he's coached them up to a level where they're going to make the NCAA tournament. They're a really, really frisky team in the NCAA tournament. I don't know if I can sit here and say, that's a second weekend team. But for Northwestern to be in that NCAA tournament mix is a big win for Chris Collins and crew.
All right, well, Purdue not the only ranked team losing to an unranked squad on Saturday. Stanford stuns Arizona, snapping the Wildcats' 7-game win streak. Azuolas Tubelis had his worst game of the season, his streak of double-digit scoring ending at 23 games. So what's next for Arizona?
Yeah, make no mistake, this is a painful loss for Arizona. Now they're 2 games in the loss column behind UCLA in the Pac-12 race. Now it makes the Pac-12 Player of the Year race really, really competitive between Jaime Jaquez from UCLA and Tubelis from Arizona. This is one of his worst performances of his career in Arizona. But I do think this is an Arizona team that we've seen them have some clunkers where it looks really bad multiple times. And then all of a sudden they just kind of get it back together and get red hot. So I'm not really concerned long-term about Arizona. I do think it's safe to say, like, this is probably not going to win the Pac-12 after this loss. And Tubelis' Pac-12 Player of the Year case is very up and down now. Like, he's definitely in the mix. He's probably going to be an All-American. You got to be elite to catch up with Jaquez, who's been fantastic this year for UCLA. And so I think this Arizona team is going to get real hot down the stretch here, and I think they're going to end up winning some big games. But they kind of had to get this clunker out of their system now, because in the past, it feels like when a Tommy Lloyd team loses and looks bad, they get it going for 6 or 7 or 8 games. And that's exciting if you think about it from this perspective. There's only 4 or 5 games left in the regular season. You think you could see this Arizona team get really, really hot heading in the NCAA tournament. But make no mistake, like it's one of those things where you're starting to see these long, switchy teams start to give Arizona problems. We saw it in the NCAA tournament last year with Houston. This is a Stanford team that has a lot of long wings. That gave Arizona some issues. And when Arizona can't get to the free throw line, that kind of changes their offense. So, yeah, they made 14 threes. They lost because they can't get to the free throw line and can't get those layups inside with Tubelis sidelined on the bench with foul trouble. So I expect a bounce back, but there are definitely things that Arizona needs to clean up if they really want to reach this ceiling in March.
Yeah, future opponents definitely watching the tape from that one. Okay, I don't know what the probability of this happening was, but Tennessee losing back-to-back games to unranked teams on buzzer beaters, true buzzer beaters. The basketball gods trying to give the Vols some kind of lesson here. Poor Rick Barnes. But obviously, no game is decided by one possession. So what's missing at this point for the Vols?
It's tough. Like, you don't want to sell your stock on this team, and I won't sell my stock on this team. I still am in on what Tennessee can do not only in the SEC race, but also in March. I think this team has a lot of pieces. I think they give teams more problems than vice versa. But there's no question that Tennessee has to be tougher and be smarter down the stretch. I think this is a very different conversation for Tennessee. If Santiago Vescovi, a career 80% free throw shooter, makes a couple free throws against Missouri and against Vanderbilt, he had multiple chances down the stretch and couldn't convert. That's kind of why they lost both of those 2 games. I think he'll bounce back. I know that this team is going to defend. I think you could see Rick Barnes maybe slice this rotation down a little bit. I think that they can get it down to 7 or 8 guys once it's kind of winning time in late February and early March, where these games matter a little bit more. And Tennessee's depth can end up helping them in this situation. So I'm still in on the Vols. I think they're going to get healthy. They need to get Julian Phillips healthy. They need to get Josiah Jordan-James back in the lineup. And they have a group, a 5-man lineup, that has a chance to give other teams real issues offensively. So I'm not really worried about that end as much. And I think they can clean these things up defensively. I get it. It's tough right now. Losing back-to-back losses like this are gutting. It's going to be something that keeps this coaching staff up at night. But I don't think that their holes are that unfixable. This is not a broken team. Just a couple tweaks, and I think you're going to see the Vols start streaking again when the games matter most. And I just don't believe or buy into the fact that this Tennessee team is overrated or not going to be able to make any noise in March because they lost a couple buzzer beaters in the middle of conference play.
Yeah, I was going to say, should be noted, 2 of their starters were missing, Julian Phillips and Josiah Jordan-James. Tough one coming up, though, this week. They are playing Alabama. All right, thanks, Isaac. And for more college basketball news and analysis, remember to like this video and subscribe to the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel.